The vastness of space felt endless as the camera zoomed in on Earth. From afar, the planet appeared serene. Blue oceans, green continents, and white clouds drifting lazily across the sky. But the peace was short-lived. In the blink of an eye, the calm was shattered. A fleet of massive alien ships emerged from the blackness of space, dwarfing Earth's defenses. Their gleaming metallic surfaces reflected the sunlight, but their presence cast a shadow that stretched across the entire globe. The Valorians had arrived. The Valorians, a technologically advanced race, had lived for centuries. Their culture, built on power and knowledge, had grown arrogant over time. They believed their dominance over the galaxy was unchallenged, and they scoffed at humanity's fragile existence. To them, humans were nothing more than a fleeting species with a short lifespan, destined to crumble under the weight of time. Commander Zorith, the leader of the Valorian fleet, stood on the bridge of his warship, his cold, calculating eyes scanning Earth below. He was tall, with sharp features and a gaze that could cut through anyone's resolve. His voice echoed across the chamber, dripping with contempt. "These humans, their days are numbered," he sneered. "They will fall in minutes." The room fell silent as Zoreth's laughter filled the air, confident that humanity was too weak to put up any kind of fight. On Earth, however, the situation was far from dire. Inside a high-tech military command center, Captain Lucas Bennett, the leader of a human military unit, stood before a holographic map of the planet. His expression was tense but focused, his brow furrowed in concentration as he studied the movements of the alien fleet. He knew the odds were against them. The Valorians had technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. "All right, listen up," Bennett's voice cut through the room, commanding the attention of every soldier in the command center. "The Valorians think they're invincible, but we're going to prove them wrong. We may not have their technology, but we've got something they don't: strategy and will." His team of soldiers, experts in various military tactics, gathered around the map, eyes fixed on the captain. Bennett quickly pointed to several key locations on the map, laying out the plan. "Our first goal is to take out their reconnaissance ships. They'll underestimate us, just like every other invader. That's their mistake." His voice was calm, but the determination in his eyes showed his readiness to fight until the last breath. Bennett's soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. They were about to face an enemy with unmatched firepower, and they knew it. The Valorian ships were massive, their weapons capable of wiping out entire cities in seconds. But Bennett's team wasn't like any other. They were prepared for the impossible, ready to take on the challenge, no matter the cost. The room fell into silence as the holographic map flickered. Suddenly, the first signs of the alien fleet's attack appeared on Earth's defense satellites. The Valorians made their move quickly, sending waves of drones and assault ships to disable Earth's primary line of defense. Within moments, the satellites were obliterated, gone in flashes of bright light as the alien weapons fired with precision. It was clear that Earth's military was outmatched, but Bennett had a plan. He was counting on the Valorians' overconfidence. They had no idea that humanity had a hidden ace up its sleeve, an advanced cloaking device designed to hide their ships from even the most sophisticated sensors. It was a technology humanity had developed in secret, knowing that it could be their key to victory. As the Valorian assault ships moved closer to Earth, Bennett activated the cloaking device. In an instant, several human strike ships disappeared from sight, vanishing like shadows in the night. The aliens, too confident in their superior sensors, failed to detect the cloaked human ships. The element of surprise was humanity's advantage. The first strike was swift and devastating. The human forces ambushed a group of alien assault ships, using the cloaking technology to get in close before unleashing a barrage of missiles and laser fire. The alien ships exploded in violent bursts, their shields no match for the precision and force of the human weapons. Zorath's eyes widened in disbelief as he watched the explosion on his ship's screen. The humans were fighting back, but he refused to believe it. It had to be a fluke. "Send reinforcements," he ordered, his voice trembling with anger. "No more surprises. We crush them now." But Bennett's forces weren't done yet. They knew that they had to keep the pressure on the Valorians, striking where they least expected. As the aliens scrambled to regroup, the humans launched a second wave of attacks, disabling alien communication towers and taking down key weapon systems. In the midst of the chaos, Bennett and his team were everywhere, leading daring raids, using guerrilla tactics that had the Valorians second-guessing everything they thought they knew about their enemy. The humans may have been underdogs, but they were proving that they were far from helpless. Meanwhile, Zorath's frustration grew. How are they doing this? He muttered to himself, barely able to comprehend the scale of the human resistance. He had underestimated them. The Valorians had believed that humanity's short lifespan and lack of advanced technology would make them an easy target. But Bennett and his soldiers were showing the galaxy that Earth's inhabitants weren't so easily defeated. Zorath looked out at the unfolding chaos and clenched his fists. "This will not be the end," he vowed. "We will make them regret ever standing up to us." But for now, the battle was far from over. Humanity had made its first strike, and though the odds were against them, they had shown that they were not to be underestimated. The Valorians might have the technology, but the humans had something far more powerful, the will to fight for survival. And that was just the beginning. As the alien fleet regrouped, unaware of the full scope of humanity's hidden tactics, Bennett stood before his team, eyes filled with determination. The fight had only just begun, and they were ready for whatever the Valorians would throw at them next. The humans were about to make their mark on the galaxy, and the Valorians would soon learn that underestimating Earth's defenders was a fatal mistake. The battle raged on in the vast skies above Earth. The Valorian fleet had underestimated humanity, but the tide was beginning to turn. Captain Lucas Bennett and his team had been relentless in their guerrilla warfare tactics, quick, unpredictable, and striking from every angle. Even though they were vastly outnumbered, the humans had begun to land the first blows, taking down key alien outposts and wreaking havoc on their command structures. With every passing hour, the Valorians were growing more frustrated, more uncertain of their superiority. Their scouts had failed to detect the hidden human forces thanks to the cloaking technology, and their ships had been ambushed in the most unlikely places. The attacks came from above, from below, from all directions. Humanity was everywhere. The Valorians had believed that the short-lived humans would be easy to squash, but now they were faced with a relentless enemy they couldn't predict. On the ground, Bennett's soldiers were executing precision strikes with a level of coordination that the Valorians hadn't thought possible. The human forces weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting with purpose, with strategy. They used eye-controlled drones, sharp and efficient, to scout and disable enemy weapon systems from the shadows. These drones, programmed to adapt on the fly, gave humanity the upper hand, able to change tactics as the situation evolved. And then there were the robotic exoskeletons, humanity's latest invention, designed to enhance their soldiers' physical capabilities, allowed them to take on the Valorian war machines with a new kind of strength. With the exoskeletons, the soldiers could leap into combat with incredible agility, moving faster than the Valorians had anticipated. The war machines, though powerful, weren't prepared for such nimble and strategic assaults. As Bennett led the charge from the command center, his voice crackling through the communication system, his team sprang into action. Hit them hard and fast, and don't give them time to regroup. His orders rang out, and the human forces sprung into motion with unparalleled precision. They attacked the alien ships, focusing on the weak points in their defenses, the vulnerable energy cores and power nodes that powered the Valorian vessels. The Valorian commanders had expected this kind of resistance, but not with such efficiency. Their ships were vast, with layered defenses and advanced shields, but the humans had exploited every vulnerability. The Valorians had grown too accustomed to their overwhelming technological advantage and had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to learn quickly from each skirmish. The alien forces were scattered, unable to regroup as they faced constant ambushes from every corner. The battlefield was chaotic, filled with laser fire, explosions, and the hum of drones zipping through the air, engaging in aerial dogfights. It was a sight to behold, a scene of chaos and brilliance, as the humans fought back with an energy and determination that only desperation could bring. But even as the humans gained ground, the Valorians refused to give up. They had superior firepower and technology, and they were relentless. The sky was lit up with the fire of countless alien ships retaliating, sending blasts of plasma toward the human forces. But the humans didn't back down. They danced between the explosions, evading the alien strikes with the precision of warriors who had nothing to lose. Amid the chaos of the battlefield, Sergeant Max Bonner, one of Bennett's closest friends, stood alongside him, leading a squad to disable an alien communication tower. Bonner was a seasoned soldier, always calm under pressure, and his loyalty to his team was unquestionable. As the squad moved in, they could see the Valorian reinforcements arriving. They were outnumbered. The odds were stacked against them. But Bonner wasn't worried. He had always trusted his instincts, and he knew that the key to winning was taking out the communication tower. Without it, the Valorians wouldn't be able to coordinate their attacks, leaving them vulnerable. He signaled to his team, ordering them to keep pushing forward. In the heat of battle, Bonner's squad fought with everything they had. They fought like their lives depended on it, because they did. But the Valorians were getting smarter. They began to anticipate the humans' movements, adjusting their strategy as they noticed the pattern of the strikes. Bonner's squad found themselves surrounded on all sides with no way out. It was then that Bonner made the ultimate decision. He looked over at Bennett, his face grim, and nodded. "I'll cover the retreat," he said quietly. Bennett hesitated, but he knew what Bonner was about to do. "Bonner." "No," Bennett called out, his voice filled with urgency. But Bonner had already begun his charge. With a loud battle cry, Bonner sprinted toward the approaching alien forces, drawing their attention away from the rest of the squad. He fired his weapon as he ran, taking down several alien soldiers in a hail of laser fire. But he knew it wasn't enough. He wasn't going to survive this. His goal wasn't survival. It was to buy his team the time they needed to complete their mission. Bonner reached the heart of the alien assault, his exoskeleton giving him the speed and strength he needed to clear a path. But as he made his way forward, an alien warship opened fire, sending a devastating blast in his direction. The explosion threw Bonner to the ground, and the shockwave knocked the rest of the squad to their knees. As the dust settled, Bennett's heart sank. He saw Bonner, lying motionless in the wreckage, the life slowly draining from him. The other soldiers had managed to escape, but it was clear that Bonner's sacrifice had come at a great cost. Bennett knelt beside his fallen comrade, grief overwhelming him. "We'll make them pay for this," he vowed, his voice thick with emotion. The remaining soldiers gathered around Bonner's body, their faces set with grim determination. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for revenge. The death of Sergeant Max Bonner marked a turning point in the battle. The remaining soldiers, now bound by the loss of their friend, fought with renewed purpose. They knew they had to honor his sacrifice. Every alien ship they brought down, every alien soldier they killed, was a tribute to Bonner's bravery. As the battle raged on, it became clear that humanity wasn't just fighting for their survival. They were fighting for something much bigger. And the Valorians were beginning to realize that they had made a grave mistake by underestimating this short-lived species. The humans were proving that they were capable of fighting with intelligence, heart, and an unbreakable will to win. The tide was turning. Humanity's first victory was just the beginning. And though the war was far from over, the Valorians had already learned one critical lesson: never underestimate the power of humanity's resolve. The Valorian forces were confident. After weeks of relentless battle, they believed they had finally crushed humanity's resistance. The human forces were decimated, their major bases obliterated, and their soldiers scattered in disarray. Commander Zoreth, the Valorian general, stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing down at the earth below. He felt a smug sense of satisfaction. He had underestimated humanity at the beginning, but now he believed the war was all but over. The final assault would destroy the last remnants of the human resistance, and Earth would be theirs. But what Zoreth didn't know was that humanity had been playing a much deeper game. While the Valorians celebrated what they thought was a victory, Captain Lucas Bennett and his team were silently preparing for their final move. Bennett had always been a tactician, one who understood that battles were not just won with brute force, but with intelligence and careful strategy. And as the Valorians regrouped, humanity was preparing something the aliens would never have expected: a secret weapon hidden right under their noses. The first hint of this came when a human spy, embedded deep within the Valorian ranks, intercepted a high-level communication. The message was simple, but it held immense significance. Activate the final phase of the operation. Earth will fall tonight. The spy relayed this information back to Bennett, who immediately gathered his team. The Valorians were preparing for one last crushing blow, but they had no idea what humanity had in store for them. The humans weren't as scattered as the Valorians had assumed. A covert network of spies, hidden deep within alien territory, had been gathering critical information on Valorian technology, military movements, and weak points. These spies had infiltrated the Valorian ranks using stolen uniforms, access codes, and even altered biometrics, allowing them to pass unnoticed through the enemy's lines. The real surprise was what they had learned: how to use the Valorians' own technology against them. Bennett's eyes gleamed with determination as he addressed his team. It's time. We've been working on something the Valorians will never expect. We've infiltrated their ranks. Their technology is ours now. His voice was steady, but the weight of the moment was clear. This wasn't just another ambush. This was humanity's counterattack, one that would change the course of the war. With the help of AI and human ingenuity, the team had been reverse engineering the Valorian technology for weeks. They had learned how to reprogram the alien robots, the towering war machines that had previously been their greatest threat, and turn them into human allies. These Valorian creations, once designed to hunt and destroy, were now under human control. It was a brilliant strategy, one that used the enemy's strength against them. The battlefield soon became a chaotic spectacle as the Valorians watched in horror. The robots they had created to decimate humanity were now fighting on the side of the humans, tearing through Valorian ranks with ease. The AI-controlled drones, once used for surveillance, now launched precise strikes, targeting key Valorian defenses and disrupting their communications. Zoreth's eyes widened in disbelief. What is this? How are they controlling our machines? But the humans were not done yet. They had one more trick up their sleeves. As the Valorians began to retreat, trying to regroup and reorganize, humanity launched a series of daring raids. They struck fast and hard, using cloaking technology to remain hidden as they infiltrated alien facilities. Each strike was calculated and precise. Human soldiers planted bombs at key power sources, sabotaged communication hubs, and disabled weapon systems, all while remaining undetected. The Valorians, who had been so sure of their victory, found themselves blindsided by these sudden, devastating attacks. The aliens' overwhelming superiority had been turned on its head. Bennett's squad led the charge, their hearts pounding with adrenaline as they moved through the enemy's lines. The cloaking devices rendered them invisible, allowing them to slip past the alien defenses undetected. As they neared an important Valorian installation, the human soldiers worked together with military precision, planting explosives and setting traps. They knew that their success depended on the element of surprise, and every move had to be perfect. The explosions rang out, sending shockwaves through the Valorian base. Chaos erupted as their power sources went offline, and communications were jammed. The Valorians scrambled to respond, but it was too late. Humanity had already struck at the heart of their operation. Their once unstoppable fleet was now in disarray, with critical systems failing and the enemy machines turning against them. The counterattack had begun, and there was no turning back. Amid the chaos, Bennett and his team moved quickly, using the confusion to their advantage. They had no time to waste. As the Valorians tried to regroup, the human forces struck again, targeting vulnerable supply lines and critical infrastructure. They didn't need to defeat the entire Valorian army, just enough to send a clear message. Humanity was not defeated. The Valorians, realizing that they were facing an enemy that could match their intelligence, technology, and tenacity, began to lose their composure. Commander Zoreth's face twisted with rage as he watched his forces crumble before the human onslaught. He had thought humanity was weak, but now he saw the truth. The humans had turned the tide of battle with sheer willpower and ingenuity. As the final phase of the human operation unfolded, the Valorians found themselves facing an unexpected and relentless enemy. Humanity had proven that they were more than just survivors. They were warriors. Their tactics, once considered primitive, had evolved into a formidable force that the Valorians were unprepared for. The humans weren't just using technology. They were using it to outthink and outfight their enemies. Bennett stood on the front lines, watching as the alien forces retreated. His face was grim, but there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. The first part of their plan had worked, but there was still much to be done. The war wasn't over, but humanity had proven something crucial that day. They weren't going down without a fight. They had taken the Valorians' greatest weapon, reprogrammed it, and turned it into their own. The Valorians, who once believed humanity was nothing more than a fleeting species, had learned a valuable lesson. Underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. Humanity had risen from the ashes of defeat and was now proving that the real strength of a species lies not just in its technology, but in its ability to adapt, to think, and to fight against the odds. The tide was turning in humanity's favor. The Valorians might have had superior technology, but humanity had something far more dangerous: heart. And with each victory, they were showing the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The tension in the war was at its peak. Humanity had managed to turn the tide against the Valorian forces with their surprising tactics and technological innovations. Captain Lucas Bennett and his team had dealt blow after blow to the alien invaders, reclaiming key bases and destroying major alien outposts. Their resilience had caught the Valorians off guard, and for the first time in weeks, the human forces were feeling a glimmer of hope. But just as they began to believe victory might be within reach, a crushing blow from within their own ranks would threaten everything they had fought for. It started with a whispered conversation. Late one night, as Captain Bennett went over battle plans with his trusted officers, an encrypted transmission came through. At first, they thought it was routine communication, until it wasn't. The message, barely a whisper, came from an unexpected source: Colonel Roderick, one of the highest-ranking officers in the human military. At first, Bennett dismissed it as a mistake or a malfunction. But as the message continued, the horrible truth was revealed. Roderick wasn't working for humanity. He had been working for the Valorians all along. Shock washed over the room. Bennett's mind raced as the gravity of the situation set in. Roderick had been leaking critical intelligence to the Valorians for months, feeding them vital information about humanity's tactics, movements, and strategies. The aliens had known every move humanity had made, every strike planned, and every weakness exposed. The betrayal was not only personal but catastrophic. It had nearly doomed the human race. Roderick had been more than just an officer. He had been a trusted leader, someone the soldiers looked up to. His defection to the enemy was unthinkable. Bennett's heart sank. The betrayal was not just a military loss. It was a blow to the very core of humanity's unity. If the Valorians knew all their plans, how could they possibly win this war? How could they even hope to survive? But Bennett knew he couldn't let despair take hold. He was the leader now, and his team was depending on him. There was no time to mourn or to question. They needed to act fast before Roderick's betrayal could destroy everything they had worked for. The aliens were already planning their next move, an orbital bombardment that would obliterate Earth's last remaining defenses. If the Valorians succeeded, humanity would be nothing more than a memory. Earth would burn, and humanity would be lost forever. Bennett gathered his team in the command center, his face grim as he laid out the situation. The betrayal had left them vulnerable, but there was still a chance to stop the Valorians. The orbital bombardment could be halted, but only if they reached the Valorian facility hidden deep within a mountain range, a place where the final assault was being orchestrated. Time was running out, and every second counted. "We don't have much time," Bennett said, his voice steady despite the crushing weight of the betrayal. "The Valorians are already mobilizing their fleet for the strike. We need to get to that facility and stop the bombardment, or it's over." His team was silent, but they were resolute. Despite the emotional toll of losing Sergeant Bonner, they had come to trust Bennett's leadership. And now, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, they had no choice but to fight once more. The team set off for the underground Valorian facility, a labyrinth of tunnels and high-tech defenses. It was a place few had entered, and even fewer had left alive. As they approached the entrance, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. The hum of alien machinery echoed through the walls, and the air was thick with the scent of ozone and sweat. The team moved in tight formation, their weapons at the ready, knowing that every step could bring them face to face with an enemy far more advanced than they were. They had no illusions. This would be no simple mission. It would be a fight for their lives. The odds were stacked against them, and they were still reeling from the shock of Roderick's betrayal. But the one thing the humans had going for them was their unyielding will. They weren't about to let their home fall without a fight. As they entered the facility, they were met with an array of sophisticated security systems, motion detectors, automated drones, and walls of high-tech armor. But the team had prepared for this. Using their cloaking devices and advanced hacking tools, they bypassed the security with surprising efficiency. They were moving fast, but there was no time to waste. The clock was ticking. When they finally reached the central control room, the true scale of the alien operation became clear. The Valorians had set up an entire fleet of warships in orbit, poised to rain destruction down on Earth. The orbital bombardment was moments away from being initiated. Bennett's heart pounded in his chest. This was it, the final stand. The team burst into the control room, weapons drawn. The Valorian guards inside were unprepared for the sudden intrusion. A fierce firefight erupted. The air was filled with the deafening sound of gunfire, and flashes of bright energy lit up the dark room. The human soldiers fought with everything they had, moving with precision and coordination, despite the overwhelming odds. Each shot they'd fired had to count. Bennett moved with lethal efficiency, directing his team to take out the alien operators who were controlling the bombardment. The tension was palpable as they inched closer to the central command console. Just as they reached it, a loud explosion rocked the facility. An alien drone had breached their defenses. The room shook, and the walls groaned under the impact. In the chaos, Bennett's team fought with everything they had, knowing that the fate of the planet hung in the balance. One by one, the alien guards fell, but the odds were still heavily against them. The Valorians had the technological advantage, and the team was running low on ammunition and time. But there was no retreat, no surrender. They had come too far. As Bennett reached the control panel, his heart skipped a beat. The countdown was nearly complete. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and his hand shook as he pressed the button to deactivate the orbital bombardment. Seconds felt like hours as the countdown continued, each tick echoing in the silence of the room. And then, just as the final second ticked away, The countdown halted. A collective sigh of relief swept through the team, but there was no time for celebration. They had stopped the bombardment, but the war was far from over. The facility was in ruins, and the Valorians would retaliate, but for now, humanity had a moment to breathe. The emotional weight of the mission settled in as Bennett's team stood in the wreckage of the Valorian control room. They had succeeded, but at a great cost. They had lost Bonner, and the betrayal of Colonel Roderick still hung heavily in their hearts. But as they stood together, battered but not broken, they knew one thing. They had won a victory for Earth, and that was enough to keep fighting. In the silence that followed, Bennett looked out at his team, his expression resolute. They had been through hell, but they had emerged victorious. The war was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, humanity had hope. They were no longer the underdogs. They were fighters, and they would not stop until Earth was free. The final hours had arrived. Earth was on the brink of destruction, the fate of humanity hanging by a fragile thread. The Valorian mothership, an immense, terrifying warship capable of wiping out entire cities with a single strike, was making its descent toward Earth. The giant ship loomed in the sky like an ominous shadow, its weapons primed to launch a devastating orbital bombardment that would obliterate everything in its path. The people of Earth had fought long and hard, but the Valorians were relentless, and their advanced technology seemed unbeatable. Yet, against all odds, Captain Lucas Bennett and his team stood ready for the ultimate challenge. They had already defied expectations, pushing back the Valorian forces with their surprising tactics, innovative technology, and sheer determination. But now, the battle was going to reach its most intense, most crucial point. This was the moment when everything would be decided, the final showdown between good and evil. As the Valorian mothership neared Earth, Bennett's team was already preparing for their most dangerous mission yet. They had to board the colossal ship, infiltrate its inner chambers, and destroy its weapon systems before it could unleash its devastating power on the planet. But they wouldn't be going in unarmed. Using their advanced cloaking technology, the team would sneak past the Valorian guards undetected. In addition to their cloaking devices, they had human-made AI combat drones, sleek, efficient machines designed for one purpose: to help them destroy the enemy. The drones were fast, smart, and deadly, offering the humans a fighting chance against the overwhelming Valorian forces. With their strategy in place, Bennett's team set off toward the mothership, traveling in their specially outfitted ship. As they approached the massive craft, they could feel the weight of the moment. This was humanity's last chance to survive. They couldn't afford to fail. The tension in the air was thick as they docked with the mothership, their ship blending into the shadows of the enormous alien vessel. As the team disembarked, they activated their cloaking devices, becoming nearly invisible to the Valorian sentries stationed in the hallways. Every movement had to be precise. Every step had to be silent. One wrong move, and they would be discovered, but Bennett and his team had faced the odds before. They had no intention of failing now. Inside the mothership, the atmosphere was cold, sterile, and intimidating. The walls were made of metallic alien materials, and strange, humming devices lined the corridors. The entire ship felt like an impenetrable fortress, yet the human soldiers moved through it like shadows, slipping past guards, taking out enemies with quiet, lethal force. Their AI combat drones scurried along the walls, assisting with reconnaissance and eliminating threats before they could even get close. Every member of the team had a role to play, and together, they moved like a well-oiled machine. The firefights were intense. Every corner they turned, every hallway they crossed, the Valorians seemed to be waiting for them, ready to spring into action. The aliens had superior firepower, but the humans had something they didn't: courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will to survive. Bennett's team fought with everything they had, using their cloaking tech to stay one step ahead of the enemy. Explosions echoed through the hallways as the soldiers planted explosives and sabotaged the alien systems. The further they moved into the ship, the more dangerous it became. The Valorian forces were relentless, throwing wave after wave of alien soldiers at the humans, hoping to overwhelm them. But Bennett's team refused to back down. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted, but their resolve was stronger than ever. With every fallen soldier, they became more determined to finish what they had started. This battle was not just about survival. It was about saving their home, saving Earth, and proving that humanity had the strength to stand up against the mightiest foes in the galaxy. As they reached the heart of the mothership, the final confrontation loomed. The massive weapon systems that powered the ship were within their reach, but so were the Valorian commanders, those who had orchestrated this invasion, those who believed they were invincible. Bennett knew that this was it. There was no turning back. If they didn't destroy the weapons, Earth would be lost. But before they could destroy the mothership's weapon systems, they encountered the one enemy they had been dreading, the Valorian commander, Zorath. Zorath was no ordinary soldier. He was the leader of the Valorian forces, a cunning and ruthless strategist who had been responsible for the destruction of countless planets. Standing before Bennett, Zorath exuded an air of superiority and confidence. He was tall, armored in sleek, futuristic combat gear, and his eyes gleamed with a cold, calculating intelligence. "I expected no less from humanity," Zorath said, his voice chilling. "You fight bravely, but you are mere insects compared to the power of the Valorians. You have no hope of defeating us." Bennett's heart raced as he faced the alien commander. The weight of the situation was overwhelming, but he knew this was the moment that would define everything. The survival of humanity depended on this fight. He could feel his team's eyes on him, the pressure mounting with each passing second. There was no room for failure. "Hope is a funny thing, Zorath," Bennett replied, his voice steady, "because it's the one thing you'll never understand." With a swift motion, the battle began. Zorath charged forward, his energy sword crackling with lethal intent. Bennett dodged just in time, using his agility and quick thinking to outmaneuver the alien leader. The two fought with everything they had, Zorath's alien strength and technology against Bennett's human ingenuity and determination. The clang of metal against metal echoed through the room as the two combatants clashed, each strike reverberating with the weight of the stakes. But Bennett was faster. He was clever, anticipating Zorath's every move. As Zorath lunged forward with a powerful strike, Bennett used the environment to his advantage, leading the alien commander into a trap. With a well-placed explosive charge, Bennett sent a shockwave through the room, temporarily disorienting Zorath. In that crucial moment, Bennett made his move. Using his advanced human technology, he activated a powerful EMP device that temporarily disabled Zorath's energy sword, leaving him vulnerable. Bennett didn't hesitate. With a swift and decisive strike, he disarmed Zorath and knocked him to the ground. Zorath let out a growl of frustration as he tried to recover, but it was too late. The Valorian leader had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to outsmart, and to fight with everything they had. Zorath fell, defeated and humiliated, as the human forces cheered. With Zorath's fall, the Valorian fleet began to retreat. The once mighty warships that had threatened Earth were now in disarray, their commanders reeling from the loss of their leader. Humanity had won. Against all odds, against the most advanced alien forces, humanity had triumphed. Bennett stood over the fallen alien commander, his chest heaving with exhaustion and relief. His team gathered around him, their faces etched with the same emotions. They had won, but the victory came at a high cost. Many had fallen along the way, but in the end, they had proven that humanity's spirit could not be crushed. As the Valorian mothership turned away, leaving Earth behind, Captain Bennett looked up at the stars. The battle was over, but the war was never just about defeating an enemy. It was about showing the universe that humanity would always rise, no matter the odds. and as long as there was breath in their lungs, they would keep fighting together. The war was finally over. After what felt like an eternity of brutal combat, strategy, and desperate survival, the Valorian fleet had retreated. Earth had won. The terrifying alien invaders, with their overwhelming power and advanced technology, had been pushed back, and humanity had secured its place in the galaxy as a force to be reckoned with. Captain Lucas Bennett and his team emerged from the battle as heroes. They had faced impossible odds, overcome countless obstacles, and made unimaginable sacrifices. Yet, despite the victory, the celebration was muted. The cost of triumph had been steep. So many had given their lives, and Earth's military infrastructure had been devastated. The once pristine cities were now in ruins, and the planet was scared by the horrors of war. As the dust settled, the true weight of the victory began to sink in. Bennett stood amidst the wreckage of their last battle, his thoughts clouded with the faces of fallen comrades. Bonner, his trusted friend, had not made it out alive. The entire team had lost so much in the fight for Earth's survival. They had won, but at a terrible cost. The weight of leadership was heavy on Bennett's shoulders, but he refused to let despair take root. The world needed hope now more than ever, and that hope rested on the promise of rebuilding. Captain Bennett took one last look at the stars. The battle was over, but the fight for Earth's future had just begun. In the distance, a new day was dawning. The war had been won, but humanity's true victory lay in the strength they had discovered within themselves. There was a long road ahead, but Earth was stronger now, and so were its people. As the sun rose over the horizon, shining a new light on the world, humanity stood united, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy had watched them fight, and now it knew that no matter the odds, humanity would always rise to the challenge. And in that moment, Earth was at peace. The struggle had been long, the costs high, but the future was theirs to shape. They had proven their worth, not just to the galaxy, but to themselves. The universe would never forget the day humanity fought back. The day Earth had earned its place among the stars. Truth. Humanity was not the primitive species they had assumed. In their eyes, humans had been nothing more than a nuisance, a lesser race unworthy of attention. But now, after experiencing humanity's fierce resistance and ingenuity, they had no choice but to acknowledge Earth's military might and cunning strategies. The Valorians, who had once seen humans as weak, had been thoroughly impressed by the audacity of humanity's tactics and the sheer willpower with which they fought. The alien forces, battered and broken, called for a ceasefire. It wasn't a surrender, not in the traditional sense, but it was an acknowledgement of humanity's strength. The Valorian fleet, once poised to annihilate Earth, now pulled back, leaving the planet behind. They left not in anger or disdain, but with a newfound respect for the humans they had underestimated. They understood, at last, that despite Earth's short lifespans and what they had deemed primitive tactics, humanity had defeated them. The aliens knew now that no matter how technologically advanced they were, it was the human spirit that had triumphed. As the alien ships departed, Captain Bennett stood tall, looking toward the sky, his gaze unwavering. He had led his people through the storm, but now, standing amidst the ruins, he could feel the weight of the lessons learned. The war had changed everything. The world was broken, yes, but there was still a glimmer of hope. Humanity had proved itself. They had fought for their survival, and in doing so, they had earned a place in the greater cosmos. It was a bittersweet victory. Bennett thought of the loved ones lost, those who had never returned from the front lines. Each face that flashed in his mind reminded him of the price paid for this victory. He couldn't shake the sadness that lingered, but he also felt a deep sense of pride. They had held their ground against a seemingly invincible foe. They had shown the universe that humanity was not to be underestimated. In the days that followed, Earth began the long, painful process of rebuilding. The destruction was massive, but the human spirit was even more powerful. Across the globe, people united in their efforts to repair the damage done. The military, though weakened, stood strong, ready to defend Earth from any further threats. Civilians worked alongside soldiers, clearing rubble, rebuilding cities, and creating new technologies that would ensure humanity's future was brighter than ever before. The Earth was scared, but its people were resilient. Bennett and his team were recognized for their heroic efforts. Memorials were built in honor of those who had fallen, their names etched in stone for all to remember. The heroes of Earth's resistance were celebrated, but they never lost sight of the reality of the situation. They had won, but the universe was vast, and the future held many unknowns. The war had shown them that no matter how strong they would always have to be vigilant. They couldn't afford to let their guard down. Not now, not ever. In a private moment, Bennett found himself alone on the rooftop of a newly rebuilt building, looking up at the stars. The sky that had once seemed so full of promise now seemed like a vast, infinite expanse of uncertainty. The Valorians had left, but the universe was still full of danger. The stars that once seemed so distant now seemed much closer, like a reminder of all that had been lost and everything that could still be lost. But as Bennett gazed into the endless void, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. They had won. Earth had proven its worth. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not to be written off. And then, as if on cue, the stars above twinkled, a beacon of light cutting through the darkness. Bennett smiled to himself, knowing that Earth would rise again. The war was over, but the story of humanity's triumph had only just begun. The message was clear. Humanity may have been small, but they had the heart and courage to take on the greatest challenges and emerge victorious. As Earth rebuilt, one brick at a time, the world's people were united in the knowledge that they had earned their place in the universe. The Valorians had learned to respect them, but they had also earned something even more important: the respect of themselves.